Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Legendary Secret Wars Volume 2, the deck building game expansion for Legendary Marvel. I've already reviewed Volume 1, so I will have a link for that up here somewhere. And because I'm tired of going over all of the rules for deck building games every time I review one of these, I made a video called Deck Building 101, and I will have a link for that up there as well. So super bare bones for those who don't know the Legendary Marvel deck building game. It's a cooperative game. The game plays against the players. All players start with the same weak deck of 12 cards that generate power and attack. You use the recruit and attack. Use the recruit to recruit stronger cards to add them to your deck. Use the attack to fight villains and the mastermind. Defeat the mastermind 4 times, possibly 5, depending on how you're playing. You win the game. And then there are schemes that give a condition for evil to win the game. That's it. As I said, I will have links up above if you want more information. Because there's a lot of stuff to go over in this expansion, and if I go over all the in-depth rules of actually playing the game, this video would end up much longer than it's probably going to be. So anyway, excuse me. This is Secret Wars Volume 2. Secret Wars in the comic book universe right now is this huge event. It may be over by the time you watch this, and it's sort of Marvel's version of DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths. All of the different universes in Marvel are collapsing. I unfortunately have not had an opportunity to read this yet, so I don't know if they're being destroyed or if they're melding. It seems like there's some melding going on, but it's all going to come down to a consolidated 1 or 2, maybe just a few universes. So you're getting all sorts of interesting characters, and those have been added to the Legendary deck building game. Now this version adds a few more new mechanics, and I'm just gonna look at this here. You've got something called Spectrum. So it'll say something like, Spectrum, draw a card. Now, to use that ability, all of your cards are going to have, if you look up there, a class symbol. That little red swirly thing is the class symbol for this card. Let's see. This has that little brain thing, is the class symbol for this card. Some cards have 2. So Spectrum means you have to have played or have in your hand 3 different classes, and then you can play that Spectrum ability. Simple enough. Then you have something called Patrol. So a card might say, patrol the sewers. If it's empty, rescue a bystander. So when you play that card, and only at the time you play the card, in this case, check the sewers. If it's empty, you get to rescue a bystander. I know there's a card that says patrol your discard pile. If it's empty, you do something. So this affects the order in which you do things on your turn. Because again, if you're going to patrol the sewers, say you play that card, you look at the sewers, it's not empty, you don't get to rescue a bystander even if you empty out the sewers later in your turn. So if you're going to be able to empty out the sewers, do it before you play that patrol card. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? So you've got Spectrum, Patrol. Those are new. Patrol. This has Wall Crawl, which was introduced in an earlier set. And that simply means when you recruit a card that says Wall Crawl, it goes on top of your deck instead of in your discard pile. You've got Teleport, which if a card says Teleport, you can take it out of your hand, set it aside, and add it to your next hand for your next turn. This does add Circle of Kung Fu and Quack Fu, and we'll get to that in just a second. So if a card says 5th Circle of Kung Fu, it means during your turn, this villain has +5 fight unless you reveal a hero that costs 5 or more. So whatever circle of Kung Fu it is, that much fight is added to the villain, which is going to make them that much tougher, unless you reveal a card that costs that much or greater. Again, does that make sense? Oh, charge. That thing sucks. Ambush. Charge 1 space. As you're playing the game, you flip over the top villain of the villain deck and it goes into the city, the first space of the city. There are 5 spaces. As you add new villains, villains move down, and you want to prevent them from escaping. If it's on the 5th space and you need to move it down, it escapes the city. Charge, boom. It doesn't just go in the first space, it goes however many spaces the charge says. We had one that charged 2 spaces, knocked 2 villains out. 2 villains escaped. That sucked. Charge is not a fun thing. Fateful Resurrection. If a card says Fateful Resurrection, you reveal the top card of the villain deck. If it's a Scheme Twist or Master Strike, this villain re-enters the city. So again, if you defeat that villain, you got to flip that top card of the villain deck. If it's a Scheme Twist or Master Strike, he just goes back into the city and does his ambush or anything else that he might do. So that's kind of sucky. And then, as with the last Secret Wars expansion, Volume 1, you have villains that you can gain as heroes when you defeat them. You have Cross-Dimensional Rampage. I'm not going to get into that. You can watch the old video. So there's a few new things added to this, and that's what's nice about a good expansion is going to add new mechanics, not just new cards, but new mechanics to the game. So that's that. Now, but what this comes down to for someone like me is the new cards, the new characters. And there are some characters that I love in this game, this expansion. So, first of all, I'm going to go over some of those just really quickly. One of my all-time favorite Marvel characters is now a part of the legendary deck building game, and that is Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu. I've been a fan of his since the 70s and 80s, and just so excited to see that he's in this game. He's one of those characters that I'm gonna put him in the hero deck because I just love Shang-Chi. As much as I enjoy the big heroes, I've always really been a fan of the lower level heroes, Moon Knight, Iron Fist, Shang-Chi, those kinds of characters. So I love that they're being put into this game. So there you have it. You've got Shang-Chi. Another low level character a lot of people don't know, I would say, outside of big comic book fans, is Elsa Bloodstone. She's a monster hunter, a legacy monster hunter. Her father was a monster hunter. She's a monster hunter. There she is. So again, love seeing this character in the game. It's great to see the Beast has been, or just Beast, has been added to the game. So we now finally have the original X-Men all available. If you're like me and go totally geek on this, I like to put together the original X-Men team and have them go up against Magneto because I'm just geeky that way. Let's see, this one. This one I find really fascinating. The card is called, or the character is the Captain and the Devil. And as I said, this is sort of a mashing up of these different universes within the whole of Marvel Comics. So what you have with the Captain and the Devil, apparently, is a gladiator-type version of Captain America with Devil Dinosaur. Loves me some Devil Dinosaur, and now you've got him and this crazy Captain America teamed up for these cards. And they're pretty good cards. They're a lot of fun. And then we have possibly, I love the ability on these cards. And this is, why are those upside down? I don't know. But we have Agent Venom. A character that I like, and cards that are just fantastic. I really, really love what these cards do. They double up on recruit and fight. You can see that over here. And they all, in some way, give you both. These are really strong cards, in my opinion. So those are, we've played this a few times. Those are the heroes I've used both times. We actually played, I played a 2-player game, we played a 4-player game. So I guess a couple times, not a few. And we played it exactly the same setup both times. We won the 2-player game and got our asses kicked in the 4-player game. This adds some new masterminds, and the one that we've played with is Shiklah, the Demon Bride. There she is. Now, in this game, when you choose the mastermind that you're going to fight, they have 4 mastermind tactics. And until this point, the mastermind tactics have always looked like the mastermind card. They just each have a different fight thing that happens. So if you look here, these are the mastermind tactics. They all look the same. They just do something different. So whenever you, as I said earlier, you have to defeat the mastermind 4, possibly 5 times. We always play it where you have to do it 5 times. So basically you're defeating the 4 mastermind tactics to win the game. Now, for the first time ever, I'm not going to show you this card, because for the first time ever, there's a mastermind tactic that is completely different than the others. This card does not look like the other cards, and it does something completely different when you encounter it. And what you do, you're going to have the mastermind face up on your in your playing area, the game board or the game mat, depending on what you've got. And you shuffle up the 4 mastermind tactics. They're face down, so you don't know. Once you'd use your 9 attack to hit the mastermind, and what you do is you move this card out of the way, and we just take the top face down card off the tactic stack. And now, for the first time ever, 1 card of those 4 is completely different, and it's a biggie. This is an amazing, fantastic card. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to find out for yourself. But it is part of Shiklah, the Demon Bride. I haven't played with the other masterminds, so I don't know how they pan out. So some of the other characters, let's see, the other heroes, I just have a few here. Not all of them, but some really interesting ones. You have Phoenix Force Cyclops. Again, it's a mashup kind of thing. You have time-traveling Jean Grey. I think this is the card I was reading in the forums, one of the time-traveling Jean Grey cards. A lot of people think is overpriced for what it does. I haven't used the character yet, so I don't know. Let's see. You have Captain Britain, a character that I enjoy. Here's a really interesting one, and something I wasn't aware of, since, again, I haven't had a chance to read the Secret Wars storyline yet. This is Dr. Punisher, the Soldier Supreme. So a mashup of Doctor Strange and the Punisher. Really interesting. Haven't played with this one yet, but he's definitely going to go in at some point. And then expanding on the Spider Universe, or the Spider-Verse as they say, we have Silk, and a fan favorite. I think this is probably one of the breakout characters of the past few years for Marvel. I don't know that she's hit the mainstream yet, but comic book fans seem to love her. and that is Spider-Gwen. So Spider-Gwen has been added to the game. Now, as far as villains go, again, not going to show all of them to you, just a few. Here's a henchman group that I like a lot simply because of what it is, and that's Khonshu's Guardians. As a huge Moon Knight fan, I just love having this card in play. And they're just a henchman, so they're pretty easy to defeat, but they do some interesting things. And then we have the, again, interesting take on some heroes or characters that we think we know, the Guardians of Knowledge. Now, the knowledge is the, actually, I'm not sure, or, see, I screwed up. And I should have known this because I was about to say it. Guardians of Nowhere. Nowhere is the base of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know why I said knowledge, because it's late for me. But these are villains, so you have to fight Rocket, and you have to fight Groot, and you have to fight Drax. So that's I think we played with these guys. That might be, yeah, I think we added these to the deck, but the villain deck. I don't remember them coming up too much. But, and I love, that's a great picture of Rocket right there. So there's a villain group. And again, there are villains that become heroes when you fight them. And one of those groups is X-Men 92. Really love the artwork. You've got Wolverine and you've got Jubilee, and there's Beast again. So he's a hero and he's also a villain. So that's another fun one. And then you've got a villain group, the Monster Metropolis. I love monsters. So you've got some of these really cool, bizarre monsters, including Ghost Deadpool, and for me, very, very excited to see Man-Thing. Love it. So, of course, well, this is the villain group that goes with Shiklah, the Demon Bride. So, if you're playing her as the mastermind, you have to have this villain group. But even if she's not the mastermind, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be putting these guys into my villain stack because I love Man-Thing and Ghost Deadpool. And then you have Deadpool's Secret Wars is a villain group. And you have Pink Sphinx, a character I know absolutely nothing about. You have Dupe, a favorite from the X-Men not long ago. I believe Grant Morrison's run on X-Men, if I'm not mistaken. And then another biggie, unfortunately only in this villain group, Howard the Duck. And he's got the Seventh Circle of Quack Fu. But Howard the Duck, and then, of course, you've got Deadpool with the Fifth Circle of Kung Fu. So, again, Deadpool, one of the original heroes in the very first Legendary Marvel game base set. Deadpool was one of the heroes. Now we've got him as a villain. All right, I think that was all the cards that I pulled out to show. You've also got, I think, a couple of new bystanders that'll just go in your base set. In Volume 1 of Secret Wars, it added the campaign deck so that a player can play as the mastermind against everybody else. Generally, this is a cooperative game. Everybody's working together to stop the mastermind. Well, now, with Volume 1, you can have a player playing against everybody else with their campaign deck. Volume 2 has given you a few more cards to add to that campaign deck. So that's what you've got here in this set. I really like it. I love a lot of the characters. Like I said, Agent Venom, fantastic. Probably one of my favorite sets of cards for this. It's up there with Domino from, I think she was in the Dark City expansion. And just as great cards to have to play in your deck. Agent Venom, Domino, two of my favorites. Elsa Bloodstone, Shang-Chi, again, characters I love. Love seeing them in this game. I love a lot of the new things that this game does, a lot of the new mechanics that it brings. The artwork just keeps getting better and better. I think in the first few sets, to me, it felt kind of dark and samey. In the very first set, each character deck just had the exact same art on each one. But if you look now, I think maybe with the first expansion they changed it up. So you have 3 or 4 different pictures. With Agent Venom, your 3-cost cards are going to have this picture. He's got some 2-cost cards. They have that picture. Your 6-cost cards. So different artwork. It's changing up. It's getting brighter. So I really like that. The only real complaint that I have, and this isn't something I generally think about, but this feels, and this has nothing to do with the game itself, how it plays, how the cards are. That's all fantastic. It's just, it feels to me like a bit of a money grab. And that's not something I normally say, and maybe there's a good reason for Upper Deck releasing this the way they did. But Secret Wars Volume 1, around $50. Secret Wars Volume 2, around $50. And you need a base set, which is around $70. Of course, it depends on where you get it. Cheaper on Amazon. I get it at my local store. Even if you buy it on Amazon at a discount, the shipping, unless you have Amazon Prime or you can get free shipping on it, shipping for these games, because they're heavy, it's going to be a lot. So basically, if you went to the store that I go to, if you wanted both volumes of Secret Wars and you have to have a base set, you're talking about $170. So I don't know why they didn't simply release Secret Wars as a new base set. You've got all the cards, all the new heroes, all the new masterminds, all the new stuff, and then just throw in your starter cards and your weaknesses and bystanders you need. So even if, let's say you still say, okay, it's $50 each for these, that's $100, and then only add even 20 or 30 because you're going to need the new starter cards and the new wounds and the new bystanders. That's still, and it sounds like a lot, that's still 130 as opposed to 170. And again, they may have a perfectly good reason for doing it the way they did. I don't know what it is. It just seems like a lot to shell out if you want these. The nice thing is, I bought the base set when it first came out, and then I bought Secret Wars Volume 1 when that came out, and then I bought Volume 2 when that came out. So it wasn't a lump sum. I didn't have to shell all that out at the same time. But it still, it seems to me it could have been a new base set. Maybe I'm wrong. My only other complaint is they don't seem to give you the oversized divider cards anymore. I like to keep every single little mini deck, I like to keep them divided in their own little separate thing. My base set is completely filled, and there's a divider between every character, every mastermind, every villain. Excuse me. And they don't seem to give you those cards anymore. So now I have like 5 heroes together, and then a divider, and then another 5 heroes together and a divider. So I'm not sure why they don't give you those dividers anymore, those oversized dividers. That's just a couple little things. Overall, fantastic addition to the legendary Marvel deck building game. Just, again, fantastic characters, some great gameplay, fascinating, interesting new mechanics, beautiful, beautiful artwork. It just seems to get better with every expansion. Yeah, this is why Legendary, I think, is one of the best deck building games. We play DC deck building more, but I think Legendary is going to go into the rotation a little bit more. With all of these new sets, all these new heroes, I can put together all sorts of new crazy teams of heroes. It'd be interesting to make a villain stack that's all heroes, or all villains that can be recruited as heroes when you defeat them. Be interesting. I'm not sure how that would play, but I'm going to have to try it. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with this game. Scenarios to set up. And of course, I don't think I even mentioned there's a bunch of new schemes for this game. We've only played the one. As I said, the 2 times we've played this expansion, we played with the exact same setup. The only difference is the more players you have, the more villain groups you add to the villain stack. So we did have a couple different villain groups, new villain groups in the 4-player game as opposed to the 2-player game. Anyway, all right. I think that covers everything. Hopefully it wasn't just a bunch of insane rambling. So, again, you can check out there's going to be a link for Deck Building 101 if you want to know more about deck building games in general. I'll have a link for the Secret Wars Volume 1 review, and I think I'll throw in a link for my review of the base game. So if you want to know more specifics or more about Legendary deck building specifically, I'll have that. So you're going to have 3 links up top there. I will have at least 1, possibly 2 links in the description below where you can pick up the game. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, and again, lots of rules, lots of stuff going on the cards, so it's always possible I'm making mistakes. So any corrections, please let me know down below. Any questions? If you just want to talk about the game, I love this stuff. So comments, that's what the comment section is for. Please like, share, and subscribe. And that's it. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.